Good afternoon, tackle traders, and hello, YouTube. This is Frank from Tackle Trading coming to you with the market wrap up for Friday, July 20th. A very boring Friday, July 20th at that within the market. Very flat day in the market overall. We did see some movement, but we didn't really go anywhere as we continue to work our way through this earnings season. A couple notable things. Honeywell had a strong day post earnings. GE had a pretty bad day post earnings, and such as earnings life. We're right in the middle of it, as all of us traders know. I'm looking into next week. Right now, I'm just looking at the mega cap companies here in the market skyline, tackle trading, because when I look at the large cap companies, anything 10 billion or above, I get 13 pages. So we'll just look at the huge 200 billion companies, and we can see an Amazon in the tech. We see Facebook, we see Google / Alphabet Inc., whatever you call it these days, Intel, so some huge names in the tech sector. We've got Boeing, we've got Chevron, MasterCard, Visa. We got some big names reporting here next week in the market. So earnings is still going to probably be the dominant storyline going into the upcoming week. So make sure you are on top of that, as I would expect you all are. Coming into our indexes today, not a lot of changes really technically. We did see some movement early, a kind of some selling early, rally, and then a little bit of back and forth as the day progressed. But really pretty much ended in the same spot, 0.05% for the S&P, down 0.03. Russell was the big loser today, down 0.31%. So not a lot has changed within our broad markets from when we spoke yesterday, of course. We do still have the Russell kind of shaping up in that cup and handle pattern. So that will be something that we can and probably should be watching how we react if and when we test that resistance, whether that's a topping out pattern or as maybe the pattern suggests right now, at least a cup and handle pattern. So things are still, we still got to wait till next week to see if we've got enough to break out of that. Just a little bit of upward tick on the VIX today, nothing much, but we've been pretty flat. So, I mean, really unchanged for us option traders out there, still pretty cheap overall. Following our weird breakout and fake out in the dollar yesterday, right back down into that old trading range that we spent much of the past month. So right back where we started. So the dollar still in a sideways area. We did have a little bit of a rally day in our metals, gold, silver, copper, but still overall very bearish trends within those markets. Nice follow through on crude though today, coming off of yesterday's nice momentum built on that again today. A little bit of profit taking to close the day out, but certainly a very nice follow through for all of you crude traders out there that did move in off of this recent retracement. So good job on that side of things. Natural gas really didn't have much oomph to it today. It did not have much of a follow through off of its relief candle yesterday within the market. So sector wise, I thought it was funny as I was watching the sectors today. Today's biggest losers were yesterday's biggest winners, both real estate and utility, both very strong yesterday. Today, they were definitely on the lower end of the equation. No patterns were broke, so we still are holding, as we're looking right now at the real estate sector ETF, still holding that breakout point. Has done nothing wrong. Of course, we would have liked to see more bullish follow through, but we haven't broke support or anything of that nature. So really, it's the same general pattern today as it was yesterday, just a little bit of a lower price tag. A couple things that are interesting. I know yesterday we looked at the industrials, which is fighting at its 200-day moving average. Once again, on third day in a row, that fight continues. We pushed our heads above that average each of the last 3 days, only to close below it before it was all said and done. Personally, I see that as a sign of weakness. Certainly haven't seen any confirmation, so I definitely think I at least need more information. But the longer it struggles there, the more I kind of lean to, well, eventually the bulls give up. We can't push it through the third time or the fourth time or the fifth time or whatever time it might be. And eventually I would give up, only speaking for myself at least. So I do think that's an interesting situation as we head into the upcoming week in the markets. Also, finance, kind of an interesting pattern developing on the financial sector right now. We're kind of seeing our lows just continually get lower and lower and lower, forming this little descending triangle as our support level remains the same. So that will be something that I'll be watching for. It's either way. I love patterns, these compression type of patterns like this, because sooner or later, while it might take a little bit of time with where we are today, sooner or later we come out of those patterns, and those are always exciting as far as I'm concerned, at least. So that will be something I will be watching as we move into the upcoming week. Many of our sectors, like our technology, our healthcare, continue. We'll take a look at tech here. They continue to hold their breakout points, just kind of dancing around that old resistance, using that old resistance as support. So, while we did see some selling, over the last couple of days, nothing dramatic, I do think if you're a bull, it is encouraging to see that these support levels, at least as of now, are continuing to hold. So that's where we find ourselves in our overall sectors. One thing, that I think, maybe can be helpful to every trader is don't be afraid to come in and mark these things up. Draw these lines, anything that's interesting to you, hit those major support levels, those major trend lines, those major resistance levels. So your eyeballs kind of naturally gravitate to these important prices. So we don't always kind of get, kind of mixed up, if you will. I'll use, energy as an example. I can kind of see this is where we're at. And so I'm kind of, on the lower end of this, closer to support and resistance. But if I'm up a little bit, on Monday or down a little bit on Monday, assuming that I'm still within this range, I can kind of say, hey, is this something, has anything changed? Has my opinion of what I would like to do with it changed over the last few days? Could be very helpful. I love these sector spider ETFs personally, for sure. Quickly, before I let you all go off and have a wonderful weekend, let me share one of my favorite things to do over the weekend within this FinViz scanning tool. I'm going to go back into my market cap. We're going to get off earnings now, and I'm going to go into the plus large. So once again, those over 10 billion shares on a daily basis. I'm just going to pretend it's not earnings season. Obviously, we need to take earnings into account in reality, for sure. I tend to, and this is, you don't have to do any of this, but I tend to go into the S&P 500 in my index to see if there's something that I could be interested. Now, I like the big companies, S&P 500 type of companies personally. If I have a strong opinion based off of any particular sector or industry, I can customize it a little bit more. But what I like to do, I'm in my descriptive, I'm going to pop into my technical scan now, and I'm going to add, you can add a lot of cool things in here. If you're looking for high ATR stocks or high beta stocks, you can kind of customize that as you see fit. But I come into the pattern, and I do this every weekend. It's one of my favorite weekend activities. Maybe I'm boring. But I come in and look at the multiple top and the multiple bottom swings. So I can identify some potential major breakout points, or whether it's breakouts or breakdowns, that might present themselves in the upcoming week. If you just pop the charts button here, it'll bring us up just a little snapshot chart so we can kind of see where we're at. So we can kind of see EMR as an example. That's a lot of overhead resistance and a heck of a lot of support not too far away. And yes, we're in the middle of that today. And that's not all that interesting to me. You might think a little bit differently. But sooner or later, we're going to test one of those levels, either that support or that resistance level. Not so much today, but looking at Aflac, had we had this conversation a month ago, we were at that top again, potentially had an opportunity going into it. You had ICE. It popped up last week. It's kind of still right there fighting as a potential breakout. So I love this scan each and every week. It's a great way to find things that have major levels of support or resistance that I can set an alert. I can go draw some lines on my charts, be ready to take action if and when they approach those resistance levels or support levels, whether it's looking to bet on it holding or watching for the breakout to occur. So if you're bored this weekend, give this a shot. Lots of other stuff you can do in this tool for sure. But just wanted to share one of my favorite tricks before I let you get out of here. As always, I thank everyone for their time. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification if you want to catch more recaps, more halftime shows, more educational and tutorial videos. We've got a lot coming at you each and every week here at Tackle Trading. So be sure to jump in and hit that notification button. We will see you next week for another exciting week in the market. So have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you next week.